Making Music, DIY Boomwhackers Edition.
Hello everyone, my name is Miss Equidale and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about music. As a musician, I'm constantly paying attention to the music of life. Have you ever tapped the side of a glass that had water in it and noticed that the sound that comes out has a certain pitch to it? When you drink from your glass and then tap it again, it sounds higher. I've always wondered why this happens. The first orchestra instrument I ever learned was the trombone. It's a member of the brass family and it consists of 3 different parts: the mouthpiece, the slide, and the bell. The mouthpiece is the part of the instrument that connects to your face when you blow into it. The slide is the part that moves. And the bell, well, that's where all the sound comes out. Now, all brass instruments are consistent of one long tube, like a trumpet, that has been wound tightly and curled into one compact instrument. The longer the tube, the lower the pitch. So let's look at this trumpet, for example. In here, there are these things called valves. These buttons push down and change the pitch of the note. So, when the first valve is pushed down, the sound comes in the mouthpiece, through, around, and then it comes here. When this is pushed down, the sound is forced to come through this extra tube before going out the bell, thus creating a lower sound. Let's take a listen. Did you hear how the sound got lower? The trombone is a prime example of this, because the longer I make my slide, the longer the sound has to travel before leaving. Let's take a listen. You can clearly see how the sound gets lower and then higher as I move my slide in and out.
My big question.
So, the question I'm trying to answer this week is, can I make this same principle apply to non-instrument objects of different materials? Here is my hypothesis. I believe that just like when I make my instrument longer, the pitch of the sound gets lower. When I blow or hit plastic tubes of differing lengths, the longer the tube, the lower the pitch will be. The materials I'm going to need are one 10-foot plastic tube, a hand saw, a vise, a recording device, and my tablet with a piano app to identify the note that comes out. So, I'm here in a machine shop. Let's get to it.
Let's get started. So, I went to Home Depot and I bought a 10-foot long PVC pipe. Unfortunately, it was too long to fit in my vehicle, so I ended up cutting it in half. And when I wanted to originally do this problem, I was wanting to have each of my pipes decrease in length by 10 centimeters each time. So I was going to start with 100 centimeters, then have a 90 centimeter pipe, 80 centimeters, 70 centimeter, and so forth. So I added all of those lengths up just to see how much I would need total, and that's 550 centimeters or 216.54 inches. Unfortunately, I didn't have that much piping to go with, so I thought, okay, maybe not a 10 centimeter difference, we'll go with a 20 centimeter difference instead, which is 300 centimeters or 118.11 inches, which I did have enough of. So I decided I'm going to cut my pipes down in lengths, taking off 20 centimeters each time. So I'm going to have 100 centimeters, 80 centimeters, 60 centimeters, 40 centimeters, and 20 centimeter pipes. And as you can see, they each decrease by 20 centimeters each time. So here I am getting ready. I've got my pipe in a vise or a clamp, as you might know it. You have to be careful not to squish the pipe too much. And I have my assistant directing me on exactly what I need to do, just because I haven't used a saw in a while. So to start off, you have to create a groove for your saw to go through by going in one direction, and when you get that groove, you can start going back and forth, pushing more forward down, going one way and then coming back horizontally. It takes some effort and some time, but you can easily get through it. And I realized that for the 20 centimeters, I actually didn't have enough of a straight through pipe to reach that, even though my total pipe length was that. But the excess from both sides was going to be 20 centimeters or just under 8 inches. So we cut off both of those sides and connected them with the end that was a bigger diameter and we were just going to throw in the garbage. We connected them and it ended up being 20 centimeters, which is exactly what we needed. So after that, we use this instrument, which is called a deburring tool, which you just use. You run along the inside and the outside of each of your edges, and it takes off those fuzzy bits that you can see there in the video. My assistant was doing this because he works in a machine shop and he knows about those sorts of tools. I tried to do it with a little, not very much success, so I let him do it. I wasn't sure if I was going to be putting this on my mouth or if I would be hitting it, so you just want to make your edges nice and smooth so that you don't have to get bits of plastic in your mouth. And he did a great job. And here you can see all of our pipes are all lined up in order, 100, 80, 60, 40, and 20 centimeters respectively.
So now with a little bit of help, I've managed to cut down all of my pieces, and I'm laying them out on a table here. And in order to blow into them, I'm going to be using an air gun, and we'll see the different pitches that the notes come out of from the different lengths of pipes.
Making music.
The first piece I'm going to do is 100 centimeters. I wonder what note that is. Now we're doing 80 centimeters. This one is 60. Now 40. And last but not least, 20 centimeters. Cool! Now we're going to go back and grab my tablet so we can figure out what note I am playing. So on my tablet I have a piano app that's called Perfect Piano, and pretty much I press a note and it plays that note on it. So I'm going to do the air gun for each different pipe, and then I'm going to see which note it corresponds with on my piano, and then I'm going to write it down. So 100 centimeters is equal to E3, which is the E below middle C on a piano. 80 centimeters. That is A flat 3 on a piano. Is 80 centimeters. Now, 60 centimeters. That is D flat 4 on a piano, is 60 centimeters. Now, 40 centimeters. Is A flat 4, is 40 centimeters. And now the last one, 20 centimeters. Is A flat 5, is 20 centimeters. Let's see if we can put a song together.
So this is what I was writing down on my piece of paper. I wrote down the length and then what note they corresponded with. So 20 centimeters was A flat 5, 40 was A flat 4, 60 was D flat 4, 80 was A flat 3, and 100 was E3. And as you can see, as my length is increasing, my notes are decreasing, indicating that they are getting lower in pitch. I also wanted to see the difference between each note. I was expecting that they would go up by the same difference in pitch each time, but the difference between 180 centimeters is 4 semitones, which is a measure of distance and pitch, whereas 80 and 60 was 5 semitones, 60 and 40 was 7 semitones, and 40 and 20 was a whole octave or 12 semitones, which is not what I was expecting at all. Then when I go to compose a piece, the more variety in notes that you have, the more interesting you can make a piece. Unfortunately, I didn't have a very wide variety of notes, but I did notice that they're all members of a C sharp minor chord or a D flat minor chord, and that was going to help inform my decision on my composition. An Ode to Home Depot.
So for my final performance, I'm going to be performing on my pipes my very own composition called Ode to Home Depot. Take a listen. Ta-da!
Extending my learning.
So now we've tested all of our pieces, we've come up with a composition, and now what I want to know is, how are we able to get all the notes in between? Because we only have 4 different notes, or 4 different pitches in different octaves. So is there a way to drill holes into our 60 piece to see if we are able to get all the notes in between that? So that's what our next step is going to be, to extend our learning. So now we've marked the holes, and we're going to be using a drill to poke them.
So once again, just like the deburring tool, I'm letting my assistant do the drilling because he has experience and I have not used a drill before, and I didn't want to ruin anything. So he is starting slower and then getting faster. Something when you're drilling, you want to make sure that you only go through the first half. You don't want to go through the entire pipe because that would ruin it. So here you can see this is our very first hole. I did end up drilling the last hole in it under some supervision. Let's discuss.
So now we have our holes. We did them sort of in the same way as a recorder is done on our 60 centimeter. So we're going to be using the air gun now to test and see whether there is different pitches when we lift up our fingers. And I didn't measure the distance because if it was going to be an even distance, my fingers can't reach. So we're just doing it this way instead. So it does make slight differences when you lift up one finger. I don't know why. My hypothesis is that it's because there are different spaces, there's less distance that the air has to travel in. What I don't know why is why there are incremental steps for smaller distances, but the difference between my 20 centimeters for each of my pipes was a different step. I asked my faithful assistant what his hypothesis is as to why it goes up in incremental steps, and this is what he has to say.
I believe that the reason that it goes up in incremental steps on here and not so much on our varying sizes of pipes is because the exit hole that the air is coming out of is smaller than what it would be normally.
That's a great hypothesis. Thank you, assistant. Well, that's all for now.
In sum, the question we were trying to answer is, can we make the principle of the longer the tube, the lower the pitch apply to non-instrument materials? And we learned that tubes do actually get lower in pitch when they are longer, but they don't necessarily go up in pitch at the same rate that their differences in length do. So where are we going to go next? What are our follow-up questions? Well, I want to know, how do the differences in length correspond with the differences in pitch? And what does the size of the hole have to do with the pitch differences in tubes? And also, do tubes of the same length but different materials have the same pitch? We'll have to find out another time. So I want to give some special thanks to all the people who made and released these awesome slideshow materials for free. The presentation template was done by Slides Carnival and the graphics were done by Unsplash. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.